إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد صدق الله رسوله الرؤيا بالحق لتدخلن المسجد الحرام إن شاء الله آمنين محلقين رؤوسكم ومقصرين لا تخافون فعلم ما لم تعلموا فجعل من دون ذلك فتحا قريبا. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود ذلك مثلهم في التوراة ومثلهم في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار. وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات منهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now I would like to invite our brother Farzan to recite some poetry in Urdu. Please welcome him with a loud salawat.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. الله سكينة बीबी के बैन हरम में महशर उठा रहे हैं सकीना बीबी के बैन हरम में महशर उठा रहे हैं बापा है राडों में शोर मातम हुसैन मरने को जा रहे हैं सकीना बीबी کہیں پہ غش میں پڑے ہیں آبے، کہیں پہ باقی تڑپ رہے ہیں، وہ چند بچے سسک رہے ہیں، وہ چند آنسو بہا رہے ہیں۔ سکینہ بی بی بڑی قیامت کا ہے یہ منظر، جناب فیضا کا امتحان ہے، بہن سے چھپ کر حسین بے قاس لباس کہنا منگا رہے ہیں۔ سکینہ بی بی کہاں ہو عباس و اکبر، کہاں ہو قاسم حسن کے دلبر، سواری لاؤ رکاب تھامو، امام تم کو بلا رہے ہیں۔ سکینہ بی بی کے بین عرفان حرم میں محشر اٹھا رہے ہیں۔ صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد، اللہم صل علی محمد۔
محمد وآل محمد صلوات Mu'mineen, as you are aware, we are joined by respected Sayyid Abdullah Al-Nakeeb all the way from Australia. Alhamdulillah, it is an honor to be in the presence of respected Sayyid. We are privileged to have him with us tonight, and inshallah, we look forward to his continued guidance and wisdom in the future. Just a quick announcement from the Youth Committee. We kindly ask all the youth, both brothers and sisters, to please keep the noise down during the English lectures. We have received some complaints from both men and ladies regarding loud conversation, loud laughing, and people using their phone during lectures. If you wish to chat, watch football, or socialize, respectfully ask that you do so outside the mosque. These lectures are organized for the benefit of everyone, and we want to ensure that those who have came to listen can do so without any distraction. Jazakallahu khair. Before we begin, just a quick reminder that there is a donation table at the back for both brothers and sisters. Any contribution is greatly appreciated. If anyone would like to sponsor future niyaz, please feel free to speak to Brother Raza. Jazakallah. Before I invite Sayyid, can everyone please come forward and sit near Sayyid with reading 3 loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Without further ado, I would like to invite Sayyid Abdullah Al-Nakeeb to come forward and deliver tonight's lecture. Everyone together, Nara Takbir, Nara Takbir, Nara Risalat, Nara Risalat. Everyone together, Nara Hadari, Hadari, Hussainiyat, Hussainiyat, Yazidiyat, Yazidiyat. Dushmanani al-Bayt pe lanat. और मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलवात.
Stay here for 2 seconds. One second. Just grab that from the
على محمد وآل محمد.
وعجل فرجه. It's okay.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبا القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد في الأولين، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد في الآخرين، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد في الملأ الأعلى. أما بعد، يقول الله في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، ولله الأسماء الحسنى فادعوه بها. صدق الله العلي العظيم. The first of our loud salawats in honor of the greatest man to walk this earth, Al-Habib al-Mustafa Muhammad. Allahumma Muhammad. The second in honor of the greatest woman to walk this earth, Al-Hawra'u al-Batulati Fatima. Allahumma salli ala. The third with your loudest voices in honor of our Imam, Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Allahumma. In the aftermath of Karbala, you'll find when you're narrating any particular story about people that are in a potentially weak state, meaning they've been taken captives, their brothers, children, husbands, loved ones have been murdered in such a brutal way that they did not have time to rest, nor eat, nor drink in the proper manner, and have been rushed from one city to another until they sit in front of or stand in front of a group of oppressors headed by Yazid. You'll think at that very moment, if anyone besides Zainab would be standing in front of a tyrant as such, there would be a very different reply. A place of weakness, not a place of strength. But then you find Yazid, at the height of his corruption and tyranny, tries to ridicule Sayyida Zainab, and she replies in the way that she does. Likewise, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad himself, very fresh, straight after Sayyida Zainab has witnessed what occurred to her brothers, what occurred to her sons, what occurred to her nephews, protecting the women and children. Still, mourning, in which he asks her the very famous question, كيف رأيت صنع الله بأخيك الحسين ومن معه من أهل بيته? Very famous question that he poses to Sayyidah Zainab, how did you find the killing of your brother and his family? Many people would crumble, could possibly cry, would lose all hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after witnessing what they witnessed. But however, the reply of Sayyidah Zainab is one that will be studied tonight and possibly every Muharram after this to understand the significance and the mentality behind such a word, and indeed the person saying it as well, when she comes forward and says, مَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا. Now someone can come forward and say, well, at the end of the day, Sayyidah Zainab alayha afdal as-salati was-salam was the daughter of who? As if she was the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Fatima al-Zahra, Rasulullah, the sister of Hassan and Hussein. So without a doubt they bring forward the perspective that Sayyidah Zainab had greatness all around her. And that's the only reason why she was capable to say such a thing in the face of tyranny. But when we go towards the Holy Quran, to be our main source of guidance and understanding how the world works, Quran showcases something entirely different, saying it's not necessary that you're related in one way or another to a personality that's grand, that makes you great. And the example within the Quran, and there are many, just to name a few, we have a personality or a group of personalities that were all sons of prophets. And likewise, there were a brother or brothers of another prophet, as in the sons of Yaqub, which were the brothers of Yusuf, as-Siddiq, all came together to the understanding that we're going to kill our brother. To showcase to you, not necessarily that if you're the son of a prophet makes you good. Likewise, the son of Nabi Allah Nuh, again, the same example. Greatness around him, apple sometimes falls far from the tree. You could be married to a prophet. We have an example of our own prophet, of people that were married but went astray. But the example that the Quran gives, and look at the significance of the wording. ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Allah has given an example in the Quran from those that have reached a position of kufr. Who's the example? The wife of Nuh and Lut, correct? Wives of prophets. Now, furthermore, on the flip side, you could have people around you which are the worst of the worst. As the example within the Holy Quran of Asiya being married to who? Fir'aun, correct? The tyrant of the time. No one within the Quran has come forward and said, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى, that I am your Lord all high, except Fir'aun. However, with this oppression and tyranny and everything that he did, Asiya being his wife was still living her life as such and worshipping Allah to the level that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the traditions that we have, showcase that she's of the four greatest women that will be honored within the heavens. So it's not necessary that we understand from the lens, when we're looking at Sayyidah Zainab, solely to do with the fact of who is around her. Tonight we want to look at this statement of Sayyidah Zainab by firstly, because sometimes you discuss the statement, but before discussing the statement, I want to look at the person that uttered the statement in the first place. Sayyidah Zainab mentions beauty, that I saw nothing except beauty. I want to see Sayyidah Zainab and the beauty within her first, before we see the beautiful words that she uttered. So the discussion tonight will be across a few questions. The first of which is we're going to ask how best to define beauty. As in, there are many levels. We're going to discuss 3 separate levels of beauty in the lecture tonight. The first being the most simple of its understanding of beauty and how we can put it into the perspective of Karbala. Number 2, the second level of beauty and how to perfect the tools necessary or equip ourselves by perfecting the tools necessary to achieve that second level of beauty within ourselves. Number 3, what are some of the problems that occur when trying to attain that level of beauty? Number 4, we want to look at a story between Imam Hussein alayhi salam and one of the people known as Al-A'rabi that came asking something from the Imam, and there's a discussion revolving around the beauty of a man. Number 5, how are we able to identify our life in its start and its end? What's the importance of identifying within our life its start and its end goal, and where is the beauty in asking the questions? And 6th and finally, what is the final level of beauty, and how can we use that final level to look at Sayyidah Zainab and the words that she uttered? So inshallah, we can start the lecture tonight by blessing the majlis and illuminating our hearts and minds with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Beauty, when you go towards the Arabic linguistics, when trying to be defined, is cocooned into this sentence saying, Al-Jamal huwa injidhabul nafsi ila al-kamal. It is the attraction of the self to perfection. So if you want to look at beauty, linguistically, that's what it is. In a nutshell, it's how your soul inclines towards perfection. Now, how can we use that to define the first level? So now, give some examples that we can relate to. Understanding perfection. It is, in architecture we have something called the golden ratio, which is an aspect of symmetry. When an eye looks towards it, sees in one way or another the perfection within that drawing of the building. Whether it's the shape, whether it's how it's structured, whether the beauty within it. There's a golden ratio there to showcase. When you're looking at, let's say if we give a modern day example that we have, if you're looking at an app on your phone, right? The user interface or UI, sometimes it's very difficult to use, where the buttons are, if it's correct on your phone versus someone else's phone. Sometimes it's tacky, the buttons aren't where you want it to be. Other times, apps are absolutely seamless. The buttons look beautiful, the colors, whether it's dark or light mode, everything's very nice. Everything's where it should be. Okay? You find the app, without a shadow of doubt, to be beautiful in one lens because of how it is perfectly associated with the needs that you want. Now, when looking at beauty generally, when we discuss beauty, so we're not looking at beauty of inclination to the other gender, right? Because the other gender, if we're looking at position, everyone has the nose in the same place, the eyes in the same place, the mouth in the same place. But the ratio, the size, the color, the height, whatever have you, in its different understandings of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created humans, some people subjectively will find it attractive, others will not. Someone might find someone else attractive, someone might find that they are not. And we're not talking about the attraction that has nothing to do with the physical appearance. So for example, some people come forward and say that, oh Sayyid, sometimes we find that we come across someone, we've never met them before. Now it's not a physical attraction, right? This person comes and asks Imam Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, this question saying, sometimes we cross paths with people for the first time. There's something within us that inclines towards them. Other times, we meet people for the first time again. There's this tension, there's this sort of hatred, and a discomfort. Nothing to do with physical appearance. It's not the fact that they look beautiful, or they look absolutely hideous, It's nothing to do with that. It's just something within us that either inclines to them or rejects being around them, right? Imam Ali, look at the statement that he says. He says, Al-arwah junudun mujannada. Man ta'arafa minha i'talaf wa man tanakara ikhtalaf. Meaning, what Imam Ali is trying to say, that once upon a time, as we know in our traditions, that our soul was created before our body, in some traditions 2,000 years prior. So our souls, arwah, were created before our body. Some traditions say, as Shaykh al-Sadiq would say, 2,000 years before our physical body. He says, when they were created, they were part of an army, part of a group, part of a clan. When you go about this life and you have that inclination towards another person without the aspect of attraction or physical attraction, okay, Imam Ali is saying, Man ta'arafa minha i'talaf. It means you knew each other once upon a time, that you've imprinted on one another once upon a time, that you recognize that soul, even though you don't know it. And likewise, those people that you do not recognize or you feel distant from are from opposing groups, let's say, when the souls were created. Now, is that the one we're talking about on the first level? No. The first level of beauty, we're talking about the physical beauty, that we begin to understand how, in accordance towards the linguistic understanding, perfection in creation, we look towards, right? Now, when Sayyidah Zainab says, مَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا, is this the level she's talking about? That's the question. When Sayyidah Zainab comes in the courtroom of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad and she says, after he's asked her, how did you view the killing? The replies being, مَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا. Is this the Jamal that Sayyidah Zainab is talking about? As in Karbala, how can we place it? Is she saying, as an example, that when I looked towards Ali al-Akbar, I saw the physical beauty? Could it mean that? That Ali al-Akbar used to be covered as a young man, his face, because of how beautiful it was. Or Qamar Bani Hashim, the moon of the Hashemites, being Abu Fadl al-Abbas and his beauty. Or what we discussed on the first night, of the beauty of the radiance of the face of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. شغلنا عن الفكر في قتله. The same face that will distract you in the hereafter from looking at Hur al-Ain. Is that the type of beauty that Sayyidah Zainab is speaking about? The scholar says no. Even though it might have a point of view, but this isn't the beauty that Zainab is speaking about. Okay, then what's the second level that we need to understand? The second level in the understanding is the manifestation of the names of Allah. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءِ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. That Allah possesses the greatest names, Al-Husna, فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. Seek nearness to Allah through these names. Now, as we understand Asma Allah Al-Husna that we recite, some of us will think it's the 99 names. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Malik, Al-Quddus, Al-Salam, to the end of it, right? Does Allah only have 99 names? This is one aspect. If we go towards some of our ad'iyah, Jawshan, for example, we have over 1,000 of Allah's names. That's mentioned within it. You go towards Ahl al-Bayt, you know what they say? They say, نَحْنُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. You want to attain closeness towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We are the grand names. So how do you understand this aspect of manifestation? Because we said yesterday that Allah doesn't have a physical place, right? But for us, when we're praying, you and I, or when we're doing any act of worship, what's the thing that we couple it with? We say, for example, نويت أن أصلي ركعتين. What's the next line? What do we say after that? قربة إلى الله تعالى. أحسنت أمير. قربة إلى الله, what does it mean? I want to pray or do any act of worship in nearness, right? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if we've understood this perspective, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have a physical place. He doesn't, right? We can't objectify Allah to a certain location. Allah is everywhere, at all times. So when we say qurbatan ilallah, how do we begin to understand closeness towards Allah? And that's the question. Because we say it, but sometimes we don't ponder over it. Qurbatan ilallah, and this is an element of the beauty we need to speak about. Qurbatan ilallah, when you seek nearness towards Allah, it says, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءِ الْحُسْنَى. Allah is perfect in all aspects. But let's take an example. Let's look at the name of Al-Jawad, let's say, the generous. If Allah is its complete version, the most perfect version of Al-Jawad, all right? When I give charity, saying that this is qurbatan Allah, and I'm not saying charity in the fact that, he's £100, make sure you see me and announce my name to everyone, this is £100. No. It's the charity that Imam Sadiq says, if you give with your right hand, make sure your left hand does not know. And you say, I want to give this charity, qurbatan ilallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want to be generous in the understanding that I want to become closer towards the all generous. So the more generous I become, the closer I become to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, I'm using that name to attain closeness. When it comes to ibadah, when it comes to respect towards the parents, when it comes to truthfulness, when it comes to brave, anything that you look at the Asma' al-Husna. You want to be merciful to your parents, merciful to your children, you're gaining closeness towards Allah. Then how do we manifest them? How do we manifest? Before we say this story, inshallah, I have been asked my sincerest apologies. I know it's the Majlis of Abdullah, there's a lot of people coming in from the back, so if you can help your brothers and sisters coming in from the back, please move as close as you can towards the front, filling in any gaps, please, and inshallah we can resume with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you very much. There was a debate at the time of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam where Al-Ma'mun brings forward the top scholars from each and every religious denomination that there was there. Brought the Christians, brought the Jews, Zoroastrians, all to come and debate the Imam of the time, which was Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. One of them, known as Imran al-Sabi'i, comes forward with a question to the Imam. Look at the question. He says, "O Imam, you say that you have the most perfect understanding of Tawheed." He says, "Yes, we do." He says, "All right, answer me this question." He says, "What's the question?" He says, "Are we in Allah or is Allah in us?" How would you reply to that one? He says, is Allah in us or are we in Allah? Allah is everywhere. How does it work? Look at the response of the Imam in order for us to understand this perception of a manifestation. So the Imam asks him a counter question. He says, "Oh Imran, I ask you a question." He says, "Are you in the mirror or is the mirror in you?" So Imran started to smile. He says, "Yeah, you got me." Because now I see myself in it. He says, "How?" He says, "Through a light." He says, "What do you see?" He says, "I see my reflection." He says, "Therefore you see Allah's manifestations all around you." عَمِيَتْ عَيْنٌ لَا تَرَاكَ عَلَيْهَا رَقِيبًا. Blind is the eye that does not see you looking upon it. So this understanding of manifestation, is this the understanding that we have to delve into when it comes towards Sayyidah Zainab saying, "Ma ra'aytu illa jamila"? And how should we see that? How would we see something like that? That Zainab would say, "Ma ra'aytu illa jamila," in the understanding of manifestation of Allah's names within Karbala. So let's have a look. Let's say the manifestations, Lillahi al-Asma' al-Husna. If you were to look at Rasulullah, you look at the example of Allah's greatest name being, Ar-Rahim. You look at Rasulullah as the manifestation of that. Obviously, he manifests many more names than just one. But as an example, if you look at Rahim, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, you can see a manifestation there. You look at Amir al-Mu'mineen and you might come across the name of Al-Alim, the all-knowledgeable. Imam Ali, what does he say? سَلُونِ قَبْلَ أَن تَفْقِدُونِ, ask me before you lose me, a statement that no one said before him, nor did they say after him. علمني رسول الله ألف باب من العلم يفتح لي من كل باب ألف باب. Rasulullah has taught me 1,000 doors of knowledge, and for me I can open 1,000 more from each of these doors. It's 1,000,000 doors of knowledge at his disposal. You can look at the words or the ism of Allah, Al-Nur, and you think of Fatima Zahra, the light of guidance, that which will direct anyone that is asking the question, which one is the right path, towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. Even in her death, she is a beacon of light. Because when you ask the question, where is she buried? The greatest woman ever to walk this earth, where is she buried? You won't have an answer, but you will have a question, why was she buried in the night? Then you ultimately go to understand she was upset. Why was she upset? Because her right was taken, Amir al-Mu'mineen's right was taken, leading you towards the right path, the light of guidance, even in the darkness and the loneliness of her grave. You look at Mudabbir, you look at Imam al-Hasan, how he tactically looked at everything within his life to set it up for Imam al-Hussein. You look at Al-Jamil, the beautiful, you think of Abu Abdullah. In Karbala, manifestation of bravery, she can look at Abbas. Manifestation of sacrifice, of beauty, she can look at Imam al-Hussein. Manifestation of mercy, she can look at herself towards her sons, towards her brothers. There is manifestations of Allah's greatest names that were present in Karbala, without a doubt. Do we agree? Is this, even though it's at a higher level than the first one, we agree. It's a much higher level than the basic understanding of what beauty is. But the second level, maybe she's saying that I can see the manifestation, that I saw nothing except beauty in the understanding of the manifestation of Allah's beauty in Karbala. Is that what we mean? Scholars say possibly, but there is a higher level that we can get to. Now this high level, but when we're looking at manifestations, because one thing is learning what she meant, another is trying to apply it within our life. So you and I, without a shadow of doubt, want to be, in one way, shape, or form, beautiful in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not physical beauty. I'm not talking, going out and doing all sorts of cosmetics and going to the gym. That's not the beauty words. We're talking about the innate beauty, the inside, that which Allah sees, that which the Ahlul Bayt see. And based on that, they choose us to be either under their flag or they look away from us. Now, when discussing, obviously we know that we're trying to attain taqwa. Taqwa is 2 lines. Imam al-Baqir has asked, what's taqwa? We have lecture series upon lecture series. Imam subhanAllah, he cocoons it to 2 lines. What's taqwa? This massive concept that we are trying to reach our whole life. He says 2 things. If you attain these 2 things, then you have attained taqwa. What are the 2 things? He says, أَنْ لَا يَرَاكَ اللَّهُ حَيْثُ نَهَاكَ وَلَا يَفْقِدُكَ حَيْثُ أَمَرَكَ. That wherever Allah instructed you to be, He does not find you missing. And all those places that He forbade you to be, He does not find you present. 2 lines. That's it. That's taqwa. But let's look at the application. The application is where the difficulty lies. Why do we find it so hard to apply this? Because of everything that we spoke about in the previous nights, and what shaitan is trying to do, and where he targets, which nerves he constantly hits on. Because our understanding of trying to perfect ourselves, right? Muharram should be there to serve as a way that we can purify, perfect ourselves. Sometimes we're doing actions with our limbs that are not perfected yet. How so? An eye of you and I sees, let's say we're looking at, I don't know, a mountain. I can see a mountain, for example. A scholar looks at a mountain in a different way. What he grasps from knowledge, from looking at a mountain, is different than something that I grasp from looking at a mountain. The eye and the eye of your soul need to be aligned. So your soul is pure, unless you've obviously tainted it through the sins, as we've discussed. But if the eye of your heart and your physical eye align to what Allah wants, then you'll begin to see that which no one else sees. The problem isn't in what Allah has given us, it's what we've used it for. So imagine a tongue, just to get it closer towards the understanding. Imagine your tongue. Your tongue, if it has an illness, an ailment or a wound, and I've given you the best tasting honey, I get you the Manuka honey, let's say, from New Zealand, or I get you, the Sidr honey from Yemen, the top class honey, and I've given it to you, you're tasting it and you're like, this is sour, this is bitter. Is the problem in the honey, or is the problem in my tongue? The problem is in? It's not the signs that Allah puts in front of us. It's not the signs. It's how we use our limbs to uncover the signs, to discover the signs, to contemplate over the signs. They're all around us. But our heart is not clean enough to see it. And that's why when we begin to perfect ourselves, our minds sometimes, just to give you an example of where we would fit, right? Like imagine I bring you a whiteboard. I bring you a whiteboard. Some of us would look at that whiteboard, I'll put a little dot in the corner. Some of us will look at the whiteboard as being white. The thought process. Some of us will only look at the whiteboard, oh, that has a dot. That's it. That's all you think about. Is it a white? No, but it has a dot. This person is good. He has A, B, C. Good qualities within him. Yeah, but 10 years ago, Imam Ali says, do not judge someone based on the sin they did yesterday, because overnight they could have returned back to Allah. Now we're still thinking about something they did 10 years ago. Do you see how the problem is within ourselves? I said, let's fix ourselves before we start looking at other people's problems. No. Why do we look at other people's problems? It makes us feel better about ourselves. So how are we going to perfect ourselves if we keep thinking about that? We should have sanctity for the believer. You don't look down at someone lest you are picking them up. If we want to be of the companions, we need to perfect ourselves first. Correct? So this tongue that I'm beginning to taste with, I have to make sure it's clean. The eye that I see with, I need to make sure that it's clean. Once I've aligned, wallah, they've moved twice already. I think from the middle onwards, the ones in the front, I think you're already at the absolute pinnacle. But from the middle onwards, if you can, as much as you can, shift forward. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala. عفوا اللهم صل على محمد وعجل فرجهم فرجنا بهم يا كريم. So one way is to contemplate over our own sins rather than look at the sins of others. Okay, we need to perfect that which is in ourselves before we try to perfect that which is in others. Another way is to create that connection between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you gain closeness towards Allah, Allah, once He takes you under His wing, He'll begin to cleanse you, as long as you have a sincere heart. He'll begin to guide you as long as you have a sincere heart. The niyyah behind what you want to do is of the utmost importance. Imam Ali, for example, someone comes towards the masjid, wants charity. He's in salah, but his niyyah is, I want to give charity, right? So what does he do? He gives him the ring in salah. Do we agree? Because his niyyah isn't the fact that I want to brag about a ring. His niyyah is that Allah loves someone that gives charity. There is a man that is in need, let me give him. That's his niyyah. Allah says, based on your niyyah, I'm going to bring a whole verse in the Holy Quran about wilayah. Do you know some people that became Khalif said, after the ayah came down, I tried to give 30 rings in my salah, in ruku', so the ayah can apply to me. He said, I gave 30 rings away. Is his niyyah Allah? Is his niyyah Allah? The niyyah is of the utmost importance, especially as a khadim of Ahlul Bayt or a khadimah. You know, the scholars, I have a responsibility. I'm coming on the pulpit. Is my intention in the eyes of Allah to get the largest crowds, to get the most views, to get virality, to say after you get down from the pulpit, oh Fulan, wow, you did an amazing lecture. Oh wow, I loved. Is that the intention that I'm chasing? Or is it that I can spread the message of Ahlul Bayt? Question mark. We begin to see the difference from the pulpits. People that affect people's hearts versus those that do not. The tawfiq is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but your niyyah is of the utmost importance. Those that do the marsiyas, those that do the chest beating, those that recite the Quran, the niyyah behind it, where is it? That's why, interestingly enough, so I remember when we're entering Hawza, there are many people entering for the wrong reasons. They see something and they want to attain it. And one of the first things I remember we had to go through many, many years ago now, is they have an interview with you. They're saying, okay, why do you want to learn? What's your objective? What's your end goal? Is it to learn? Is it to benefit yourself? Is it for you to become on the path of getting closer towards the Imam of your time? Or are you just learning a few words in order for you to place them together so others can see that you have knowledge? Which one is it? The intention is of the utmost importance. And that's why when we come closer towards Allah, you know, sometimes, so I don't want to get too far off topic, but sometimes we think to ourselves, I'm in a position in my life where I'm not ready to change. When I achieve this milestone, then I will go back to Allah. So for example, people that go to Hajj, they're like, you know, I'm going to Hajj at the end of this year. I'm just going to stay the same. When I go Hajj, Allah's going to forgive me for all my sins. I'm going to be fresh. Then I'll put on the scarf. Then I will, for example, get married. Then I will leave this Muharram. Then I will be a better Muslim. Then I will start praying. When Imam Mahdi comes, then Habib, you attach yourself now and you say, now you cleanse me. Oh Allah, I've come to your door. You take me by the hand. Oh Imam Mahdi, you are known as Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, the companion of my time. Be a companion in my everyday life. Take me. Guide me to how you want me. And that's why when we have that attachment, your entire life changes. How? Look at this hadith. Now, hadith Qudsi. And this is one of the four corners of spirituality, by the way. The four pillars of spirituality, this is one of them. If you want to gain closeness, or if you feel like you want to be spiritually inclined towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is one of the pillars. Hadith Qudsi is a hadith that comes from Jibreel. However, it's not part of the Quran. So it's more or less, it's a divine covenant. Allah is speaking to each and every one of us. What does he say? وَمَا زَالَ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ. He says, my servant will constantly come closer towards me through nawafil. Salat al-layl, mustahab here, mustahab there. Gaining closeness. Because you don't have to, right? You have to do your wajibat, otherwise you get punished. But these nawafil is you trying to make an effort to get closer towards Allah. Closer towards perfection. Closer towards understanding the connection. You want to perfect yourself. Why else would you do something that's mustahab? Unless you want someone, which is Allah, to be happy with you. It says, مَا زَالَ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ